was not told completely accurately, which you've acknowledged. I just want to give you an opportunity to clarify what happened. Yeah, of course. I mean, the larger story there, and the reason I included that story is because I wanted to convey a story about giving tough feedback to President Biden. So actually, my objective was to validate their experience and not the opposite. And as I This chat is not monitored for the first 50 minutes of the broadcast. Period. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Tuesday, 27th day of May, 2025, and it feels like a Monday. Uh, no fancy intro music today because, well, blame it on GoTo, right? Okay, fair enough. Got to blame somebody. Anyway, thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are,
Those of you in the U.S., I hope you had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Hope you took some time to reflect on so many who gave so much, even their last breath, that you and I might enjoy the freedoms and liberties that sadly we too often take for granted. And we got another big holiday coming up, the 250th anniversary of our nation, coming on July 4th. President's got a big party. And of course, the other side of the aisle, they're all up in arms. There's a pun there, but I won't even go to the trouble of explaining it. So, anyway, whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. We do 2 live broadcasts every trading day. Now, the first live broadcast, that's our live training room. So, to get into that one, you got to be a member or you have to be taking your 1 week free trial. Now, if you have not yet taken your 1 week free trial, go here to mytradingiq.com. At the top of the page, you will find a very large, very purple button. Click it, you can't miss it. Fill out the form, hit submit. We'll get your indicators up and indicating today. Your trial will officially start tomorrow. And because it's a short week, don't worry, you'll still get 5 consecutive trading days on the trial. And when you take the trial, you're not just gaining access to the live training room. You see, what's going to happen is we're going to treat you just like you were a passport holder for 5 consecutive trading days. No credit card required, because we want you to focus on learning what's being taught so that at the end of the 5 days you can make a well-informed and intelligent decision as to whether or not trading is right for you. When the live training room ends each day at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, we take a 30-minute break and come back for this broadcast, the noon broadcast, which unlike the morning broadcast, is open to the public. That's everybody, everywhere on planet Earth and other planets, I guess, that have an internet connected device. Now, there's 2 different ways you can join this broadcast live. The best way, I'll give it to you first because you only got to do it once. Go to mytradingiq.com, but this time scroll down the page to where it says noon broadcast. Click that link, fill out that 30-second registration form, and you're done. Going forward, what will happen every trading day, you'll get an email about an hour before the broadcast starts. In the email, there's a link, so at 12 noon Eastern, all you got to do is click the link in the email, and it will automatically log you into our platform. The benefit of that is you'll have access to the question box, so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Of course, there'll be days you're out of the office, away from the desktop, maybe you're on vacation, but you still want to join live. And some days you'll be busy, can't join live, but you do want to get caught up later. Well, I have good news. You can do both of those via our YouTube channel, which is easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN, Christian Financial Radio Network, since 2005. But you don't have to remember all that. Just youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, as we're doing right now, simulcasting, but we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there are over 2,800 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. Now, if you're new to the world of CFRN, it's a great way to get to know who we really are. Thanks to the power of YouTube, you can scroll back 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, even more. Now, obviously, you're not going to watch them all, nor do you need to, but it's a great resource to have at your fingertips. Again, thanks to the power of YouTube, you can literally see how we've evolved over the years. youtube.com/CFRN. Our daily schedule is posted here. Michael will be joining us at the top of the hour to give us a recap of what happened this morning in the live training room. Then we'll do some live trading on the TradingView platform. But first, let's get into our daily devotional. The topic we're on right now, at his feet, choosing what's best in a busy world. We're on day 405. Today's scripture is Genesis 3, verse 8. And I'm going to share it from the Message translation. When they heard the sound of God strolling in the garden in the evening breeze, the man and his wife, that would be Adam and Eve, hid in the trees of the garden, hid from God. Now you know you can't hide from God. So day 4, savor, study. Now, of course, a devotional plan on the study of God as a means to an end would not be an adequate way to spend this time together. The majesty of God isn't only something to be studied and pondered on in order to make ourselves feel smarter, or so that we might know more. Our study of Him is, of course, an opportunity to know Him more. Picture the scene. You've been given a beautiful paradise in which to dwell. You're given freedom and authority, and you're also given one instruction which you must not violate. But you can't help it, can you? So you do. And when you do, God comes looking for you. He searches until he finds you, and then he asks you why you're hiding. Imagine the closeness, the connection, and the fellowship, alongside the fear that it might soon all be over. Now, we know the story. If we know Jesus, we know that Him taking on our sin, past, present, and future, means that although our sin has consequences, God's not punishing us for it. But isn't that the key point I raised by sharing this passage today? I share it because it's a reminder of the presence of the Lord, which we too can encounter daily. Adam and Eve were human just as we are, and yet they experienced something of God's presence. They couldn't stand to be in it because of their own sin. But they had the opportunity to closely encounter God all the same. We can so often limit the study of God to simply an opportunity to know more about Him as opposed to actually knowing Him. You see, I know Donald Trump is the president, but I don't know Donald Trump. See what I'm talking about? 1 Corinthians 8:1. Now concerning food offered to idols, we know that all of us possess knowledge. This knowledge puffs us up, but love builds us up. And so, with our fallen human nature, how do we actually obtain this place of savoring as opposed to simply studying? The answer is in the attitude of our hearts towards Him. We're told in Psalm 22:3 that God inhabits the praises of His people, and we're also encouraged to worship Him with an upright heart in Psalm 119:7. In short, the more we study, the more we savor. The more we truly know, the more we want to know Him. Here's a prompt for your journal. How alive have you found your Bible reading to be of late? Has it felt life giving or more like a chore? Ponder on that. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, even when we hide in shame, you still come walking towards us in love. Thank you for seeking us, even in our brokenness. Help us to walk with you openly, honestly, and humbly, trusting in your mercy and grace. It's in Jesus' name we believe and pray. And everybody said, Amen. Amen, and happy Tuesday feels like a Monday. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. See what's shaking around the globe. Starting here in the U.S. with the cash markets, or the indices as they're called. The Dow's currently up 636 points. That's over 1.5%. The Nasdaq's up 414 points, almost 2.25%. The S&P 500 is up 103 points, 1.75%. And the Russell 2000, our man in the street, up 42 points, just over 2%. In the commodity basket, crude oil down 89 cents, trading 60.64 last. That's a drop of almost 1.5%, or $900 per contract traded. Gold down $73. That's 2.25%. Silver down 40 cents, trading 33.20 last. That's a drop of 1.25%. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei posted a gain of 192 points. Shanghai dropped 6. Hang Seng gained 99. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE up 60. DAX up 198, almost 1%. The CAC down a point. So we had a mixed day in Asia. It was a mixed day for the UK, but so far it is a big green Radio Tuesday here in the US of A. So time for news, but I need to check something real quick. Let me go ahead and flatten this position. Okay. I don't want my mind wandering. Just close it out. Okay, news time. At least 12 people were killed and several others wounded following a massive Russian drone and missile strike on Ukrainian cities Sunday. The barrage, which included more than 350 explosive drones and 9 cruise missiles, was the largest to date in the 3-year war. Now that doesn't sound like a man who wants to end the conflict. The attacks are the latest sign of dimming prospects in U.S.-led ceasefire talks, and come less than a week after a 2-hour call between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump harshly criticized Putin to reporters after the weekend strikes, though it remains unclear whether they will lead to a shift in administration policy toward the war. Putin said the move was in response to Ukrainian drones in Russian territory. He said, she said. On the ground, Russia holds almost 20% of pre-war Ukrainian territory and has attempted to advance along the front lines, though both sides have been in an effective stalemate for months. A German court has convicted 4 former Volkswagen officials of fraud in the decades-old Dieselgate scandal. 2 executives working in engine technology received sentences of several years in prison. The others received suspended sentences. The U.S. EPA discovered the scandal in 2015, revealing Volkswagen had installed so-called defeat devices in models dating as far back as 2009. The software enabled vehicles to illegally pass diesel efficiency standards in controlled environments, while producing up to 40 times as much pollution in real-life driving conditions. More than 11 million cars worldwide were impacted by the fraud, which engineers said they enacted under time frame and budget constraints. The scandal, which cost Volkswagen $34 billion in fines and legal fees. Now, who gets that money? I guess the German government. Is thought to have expedited a global shift to battery-powered cars. Before 2015, diesel cars accounted for over half the European market. They now make up less than 10% of the market. Remember when you were a kid, diesel was like practically free. I mean, it was so cheap compared to gasoline. Now it's the other way around. And on a sad note, Billy Joel's wife thanked fans yesterday for their outpouring of support following the disclosure of a brain condition impacting the musician's hearing, vision, and balance. The 76-year-old singer was recently diagnosed with normal pressure hydrocephalus, a disorder causing cerebrospinal fluid to build up around the brain, impacting its function. The condition becomes more common with age, found in 0.003% of people under 65, but 5.9% of people above 80. It can be caused by a variety of factors, including a brain tumor, head injury, or infection. Joel will undergo physical therapy to treat the condition, which is reversible. He is canceling all planned concerts through July 26. Joel is among a cohort of older musicians who continue to tour later in life. Musicians over the age of 60 made up 4 of the 10 highest grossing tour acts last year, collectively raking in over $844 million in ticket sales. Our thoughts, our hearts, and our prayers are with you, the Piano Man. Turning to Wall Street, CEO Elon Musk over at Tesla has pledged for his own RTO return to work as more negative data emerges. Per the European Automobile Manufacturers Association, Tesla EV registrations in Europe fell a whopping 49% in April compared to a year ago, to 14,228. Meanwhile, overall EV registrations in the region, which includes the UK and the European Free Trade Association, rose 34.1% in April, with overall registrations down 0.3%. U.S. stocks leapt higher today amid brighter prospects for a U.S. EU trade deal following President Trump's decision to push back the introduction of 50% tariffs on imports from the bloc. I already gave you the numbers. After Monday's Memorial Day market closure, stocks are eyeing a comeback from Friday's losses as investors welcome signs of thawing in frosty EU trade relations. Another boost came from a slide in Treasury yields and a stronger dollar, credited to signs that Japan will cut back on bond sales after the market rout. Okay, we'll see if they do. Trump Media and Technology Group, trading under the symbol DJT, is doubling down on crypto, unveiling plans today to create what it claims will be one of the largest Bitcoin treasuries held by any public company. The initiative is backed by a $2.5 billion private funding round, with commitments from roughly 50 institutional investors, according to a company press release. The deal includes $1.5 billion in Trump Media common stock and $1 billion in convertible senior secured notes, set to close on or around May 29th. Once finalized, the move will place Bitcoin directly on Trump Media's balance sheet, alongside existing cash equivalents, and short-term investments totaling $759 million as of the end of Q1 2025. Shares of Trump Media, which are majority owned by President Trump, fell over 7% in early trading following the announcement. Bitcoin, meanwhile, is hovering near record highs, trading around $110,000 per coin. Now, we don't have a lot in economic news this week, but we do have some big news, and it's all about NVIDIA. In fact, they're calling it NVIDIA Week. That's W-E-E-K, not W-E-A-K. Okay, all right. NVIDIA Week is here. The chip giant that has become the poster child for the AI boom that kicked off in late 22 will report first quarter earnings after the close tomorrow, May 28th. The last of the so-called Magnificent Seven stocks to report results. NVIDIA's report will serve as a coda on what has so far been a stronger than expected earnings season for corporations who remain highly sensitive to tariff developments, but drove profit growth in the year's first 3 months at a faster rate than analysts had forecast. NVIDIA, which sports a market capitalization north of $3 trillion and has at various points in the last year been the world's largest company, is more important to the artificial intelligence ecosystem than simply what their numbers will show this week. So this is going to rattle the markets, good or bad. Just be aware. NVIDIA tomorrow. In fact, an upbeat earnings report by NVIDIA would bode well for a rally in U.S. equities, as investors have about $7 trillion parked in cash funds, according to BBVA strategists. Institutional positioning in the U.S. technology sector is undemanding, with hedge funds and mutual funds still substantially underweight. Exposure of trend-following commodity trading advisors to the broader stock market is also neutral, while volatility controls funds and have plenty of room to add risk. Okay, it's going to be a big day tomorrow. U.S. consumer confidence improved in May after deteriorating for 5 straight months amid a truce in the trade war between Washington and China. Though households continue to worry that they won't have enough plastic crap under their tree this Christmas. Claptrap. From Bloomberg, oil slipped as the looming prospect of another major OPEC production increase overshadowed easing trade tensions between the European Union and the U.S. And last, AMC had a blockbuster weekend. See what I did there? AMC had the most lucrative Memorial Day weekend in its history, setting records for admissions, income, food and beverage sales, and total revenue at U.S. theaters. The movie theater operator said that AMC credited the releases of Lilo and Stitch, which I've never seen, and Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, with drawing crowds, bolstering shares of AMC, along with the hit's respective producers, Disney and Paramount Global. AMC is up 22% on the session. Disney's up 2.5%. Okay, to the local news. Logic 247. That's our 24/7 around the clock E-mini alert service. Now it's not just E-minis. It's also crude, the gold, and silver. Last week, well, let me give you this first. We're currently in week 356. Over the last 356 weeks, we have issued over 19,700 individual handcrafted alerts. And what we've averaged on a weekly basis is 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out based on market structure and a simple process we teach all passport holders. Now, Valerie did the recap this morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern. I did put some alerts out Sunday night. Even though the U.S. markets were closed, the global markets were open, and I put more alerts out last night. So, keep in mind, this recap was done at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, so some things will have changed by the time Valerie updates the recap this afternoon or early evening. Since the Globex opened Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, this week we've issued a total of 24 alerts so far. Still waiting on the outcome of 8. That gives us 16 actionable alerts, of which 1 or 6% would have been stopped out, again based on market structure and that simple process we teach all passport holders. And I do believe last week we finished up with 12% stopped out. I'll give you all the numbers before the broadcast is over. But we've had some good weeks, so by the grace of God. Now, every logic alert has an entry price, an initial target designed to help you get your goal for the day, and then additional trade to targets in most, or additional targets in most cases, and a final trade to target. Yes, you can trade them, but the real purpose of the logic alerts is to help you learn how to read a chart. Whatever you want to be in life, you got to be able to read the textbooks. But if you want to be a trader, you got to learn to read the charts. And that's a different kind of language than you'll find in textbooks. Now we're approaching that big round number at 20,000. I don't know what's going to happen after that point. When I started Logic 247, I never imagined that I would be standing here one day saying we're almost at 20,000, but we are. And for anybody that has any feedback, if you'd like me to do something a little different, I'm not saying I won't do the logic alerts, but maybe you got a better idea. Maybe I can do something different that will help you more. The logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock, 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. Our day session is their night session, and vice versa. Now, if you can imagine, long before we ever had a Logic 247, we had our original alert service, the concierge trade alerts. And yes, they're different. Different how? Different, I'll show you how. Here we go. The CTAs, number one, do not come out around the clock. They're posted as a static report 5 minutes before the market opens on days that I can. And I got a pretty good record the last couple months of getting them out. You see, we know that this is the Tuesday session, but the Tuesday session began last night at 6 p.m. Eastern. So last night, all of our members and all of our trial members had all of these targets 5 minutes before the market even opened. The ES, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. And I try to always put a note in the discussion group, as I did yesterday, letting you know that I plan to have the CTAs out 5 minutes ahead of the open. And on days when I know I'm not going to be able to, I put a note in the discussion group that I won't be able to. Okay? All right. Fair enough. So we can now go to the charts. And we'll go where we always go first. The daily chart of the S&P 500 E-mini futures. Now we waited patiently and you kept hearing me say, oh, we're so long overdue for a pullback to the BBC. That's the green line. Now, the green line is called the BBC because it stands for Bull Bear Cross. When price crosses above the green line, we're bullish and expect higher prices. When price crosses below the green line, we're bearish and expect lower prices. Price crosses above the green line, we expect higher prices. What I really want you to notice is that when price pulls back to the BBC, whether from above or pulls up from below, the pullback holds more often than it doesn't, like it did here and like it did here. Now, look what we have looming overhead at 59.55. Blue and climbing, which is obviously bullish. See on the way down, red and falling, that's bearish. We're about to run into this. We could stall out. We could consolidate for a few days. We could head back to the BBC, or we could rip through it. If we rip through it, watch this area right here. See this little double top going on over here? That's potential resistance. And then this bearish cross where the red line gets below the green line. That is definitely major potential resistance. I encourage everyone to spend 2 minutes with the daily chart of whatever it is you're getting ready to trade on your smaller time frames. Institutional investors, the deep pockets that actually move price, they look at daily, weekly, and monthly charts the way you and I look at 30-minute charts, 5-minute charts, tick charts, and range charts. Why? Has everything to do with account size. So, if you'll spend 2 minutes with the daily chart of whatever you're about to trade, it can be futures, it can be stocks, crypto, Forex, ETF, doesn't matter. Price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. from support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over, again and again. It's a never-ending cycle. So by looking at the daily chart before you start trading, you can see you get a free look over the shoulder of the deep pockets. Are they buying? Are they selling? Maybe there's a doji, which means they don't know what to do. Okay? We got a nice green candle here. Now notice at the open last night, we pulled back to the black step line. When the step line gets directly below price, it becomes potential support. And when red and falling gets directly above price, that becomes potential resistance. So you're not only able to see what the deep pockets are doing, but you're able to identify, as I just did, the major areas where you should expect potential resistance. Okay? And support. We always expect support on the pullback to the BBC until proven otherwise. Now the pullback holds more often than not, but eventually it will trade through like it did here and like it did here. But what a big, beautiful bounce we got. I mean, we hit the BBC around 57.67. Now we're trading 59.31. That's one big, beautiful bounce. Now, all of the alerts, Logic 247 and the Concierge Trade Alerts, are all based, are all created on the 30-minute chart. Nothing magic about 30 minutes, just the time frame I chose years ago, and it served me well, so I've stuck with it. Okay. Now, you're looking at last week's weekly trading zones. Why? Whenever Monday is a holiday, the weekly trading zones don't get published until Tuesday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Normally they're published Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. In either case, once they're published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They don't change in any way whatsoever. When price rallies up to a weekly trading zone, we expect resistance till proven otherwise. When price drops to a weekly zone, we expect support until proven otherwise. And again, whether they come out on a Monday or a Tuesday, once published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. Now this gap here, that was due to the game servers being down. If you look on TradingView, you won't see this gap. Okay, so now we're up against already our next to the highest weekly trading zone, and I'm talking about the new zones that were published this morning. On tomorrow's broadcast, you'll be looking at this week's zones. But all the alerts that went out Sunday night and last night were based on last week's zones because the new zones didn't come out till this morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Okay. This was the opening candle last night, and remember, all members and trial members had these targets 5 minutes before the open. Once price gets below the BBC, we expect lower prices, and look where it took us, right to the short target. Support. Red and falling turned to blue and climbing, got us back above the BBC, sent us right up to the long target. We hit resistance. If you go look left, you'll figure out why. And then the step line, the black step line, you see how on the way up it was running parallel to blue and climbing? And then right here, the picture changed. The step line, the black line, crossed from the left side to the right side. When that happens, we expect a retracement to the BBC. And we got it. And this was an odd little candle here. We spiked almost all the way back down to the short target, but the markets, that's the 9:30 opening candle. So we had a huge red candle all the way down to here. Okay. But before the 30 minutes was up, it had completely reversed and left us with a long-legged doji, which is very bullish. It sent us up to the long target, through the long target, through last week's zone, and we're getting some pushback here at this week's second to the highest zone. On the Dow, this was the opening candle. Down we came, right to the short target. Support. We'll always send the market looking for resistance. Go look left, you'll see it. Then we consolidated for quite a few hours at the long target. And then we got that same pullback. See, here's the 930 candle on the Dow, the open of Wall Street. And bang, we're up against, was that last week's highest weekly zone? No, but it was a zone from last week. Zones have what I call carryover power. In other words, the first day of trading for a new week, the old zones still carry some weight. Okay. Now, we've got blue and climbing below us. We've ran into resistance at this zone, but we hit the short target, hit the long target, hit the short target, hit the long target. That's almost like found money. Okay. There is no free money, I promise you that. But how beautiful is that? The Russell. Open, kind of flat. We did get a pop-up to the closing candle of Friday, which acted as resistance. It sent us down, but not far. This pullback, see, we had a couple candles that opened and closed below blue and climbing, but we never really pulled away any significant distance. And about 2 a.m. we took off, and this was the London Open, and then 3:30 we ran and we hit the long target, resistance, and then we got that same pullback like on the other indices, almost to the short target. Now, just to give you an example, you could have jumped in, well, you know what? I don't really recommend trading the first 30 minutes, although I know that for a lot of people, the first 30 minutes is when you make most of your money. So I'm just going to leave that alone. Support came in off these highs from Tuesday. This is the vertical line separates today, Tuesday. This is yesterday, Monday, short session, and then Friday. Notice these highs from Friday. They pretty much line up with this low here. So support sends us looking for resistance. We hit the long target, through the long target, and we're about to run into some resistance from one of last week's zones at 2095/96 on the NQ. This was the open last night on the NQ. We got below the BBC, made a beeline for the short target, overshot it just a little bit, but buyers came in. This is a spot where I maybe would not have expected buyers to come in, but they did. You can see red and falling turn to blue and climbing. That's an indication that this might be one of the times the pullback doesn't hold. Okay, and sure enough, it traded through the zone, had a little hiccup right here, and then continued and hit the long target to the tick. resistance, sent us back to support at the BBC. We got a spike down that touched the short target to the tick. Support now has us looking for resistance. And we've got one of last week's zones right overhead at 21,475/76. Now 21,465 to 21,475. That would be worth $200 per contract traded. Crude. We opened sideways. We ran into the zone overhead. Okay. Resistance. Resistance sent us down to support at the zone below, which sent us back to resistance, which sent us back to the BBC support, which sent us back to resistance at the zone. Then we get below the BBC and we hit the short target and we make it all the way down to 60.30, and that was last week's next to the lowest weekly trading zone. That provided good support. So now we're bouncing up to the BBC. We expect that to be good resistance. Remember, the pullback holds more often than it doesn't. Okay? And if we're able to get back up there without red and falling turning to blue and climbing, that would take a quick move. But if that happens, you can definitely expect another leg to the downside. If we overcome the BBC and that zone, make sure you watch this area right here where there was a bearish cross, where the red line got below the green line. That is potentially good resistance. One of the best indications of potential resistance you'll find, or that I've found. Okay, that would be at roughly 61.40. And gold. What do we got? Okay. Now, this was the opening candle. And we tried to move higher, but we ran into these highs from Monday and just really couldn't overcome them. So that sent us down almost to the short target. Bounced us up to the BBC. Then down we go to the short target, through the short target. This was last week's highest weekly zone on gold, I think. Nope, next to the highest. Red and falling has turned to blue and climbing. Now the step line crossed, so when that happens, we begin to anticipate this pullback to the BBC. And with all this blue and climbing supporting us, I got a feeling that this time we may overcome the BBC, potentially. But make sure you watch this area right here as potential resistance, 33.08, 33.20, 33.27. That's if we overcome the BBC and start to trade higher. We're printing a red candle, so, you got to be patient. Got to be patient. Silver. This is where we opened last night on silver. We attempted to go higher, but we couldn't take out this high from Monday. Blue and climbing turned to red and falling, and it took us right down to the short target and the zone. Remember, when price drops to a zone, we expect support till proven otherwise. So it bounced us up, but we didn't quite make it to the BBC. That tells you there's weakness in the market. So the next leg came as no surprise. Leg, retracement, leg, retracement, and see this blue and climbing, and see how price overcame the BBC. That's what I'm thinking can happen with gold. Now with silver, The issue is we've run into one of last week's zones, which acted as resistance, 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 resistance. If we start to move higher, then you've got potential resistance here at the underside of the short target. And then your next resistance would be here, here, and then up here at the bearish cross. Okay? So we're a little off the high of the day. And we know we've got some heavy-duty potential resistance overhead. Now, Michael should be here in just a minute. To become a member, go to mytradingiq.com. Watch the videos, read the content, and when you're ready, send an email to support@cfrn.net. In the email, just tell us you want to become a member. We'll send you an email that explains everything it means to be a passport holder. Number one, you're going to get 2 hours of live training in an interactive environment every trading day. Live trades and live markets with real money, with an explanation of every trade taken, whether it was profitable, whether it stopped out. We're very transparent, and you are trading along in your demo account, asking every question that pops into your head. It's rules-based trading, so eventually you'll run out of questions. Along with 2 hours of group training every trading day, you also have access to private one-on-one mentoring. The strategy you learn, the indicators you own as a passport holder are fluid across all markets and all time frames. Stocks, futures, crypto, Forex, ETF, it doesn't matter. Price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. Support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over, again and again. Never-ending cycle. As a passport holder, you're going to get the Logic 247 alerts around the clock. You'll get the concierge trade alerts the second they're published each evening. Monday mornings at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, you'll get the weekly trading zones. Except on a holiday, it's Tuesday. But once they're published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They don't change in any way whatsoever. You'll be able to attend the members-only workshop every Thursday night. And you'll get the golden key that opens all the private channels in Telegram. We have public channels, we have private channels. But you're going to get access to everything. And one of those is the weekly workshop channel. There's hundreds of weekly members-only workshops in there. Do you need to watch them all? No. But they each have little captions below them in most cases that tells what we talked about during that particular session. So, you can watch any that you want, but it's just a great resource to have at your fingertips. Honestly, it's everything a trader needs, all under one roof, at one low price. Just send your email to support@cfrn.net. Tell us you want to become a member. And that email we send you with all the information, it's going to have a link that you can click to seal the deal. Michael just shot me a message that says, give me a minute. I'm not sure exactly what that means, so we're going to give him a minute. I'm going to hit mute, and Michael will be here in a second. Hang tight, he'll be here in a second. Stand by. He's still trying to get in.
Okay,
There he is. Told you he'd be here.
here I am. I am here right now.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Put my name in. Ah. There.
Okay, looks good.
All right, excellent. Here we go. Ah, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, the 27th day of May, 2025. Now, if you have not taken a free trial with us and you'd like to, go here to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button right here. Now, when you click that purple button, okay, it brings you to this page. On this page, just fill it out. Ask for your name, your email, your phone number. Down here at the bottom, just gives you TradingView login ID. Click on this link right here to get one. If you don't have a TradingView login ID, just click on that link right there to get one. Okay, it gives you TradingView login ID. And that is all you need to get the trial started. All right. Now, in the spreadsheet, my goal today was to make $1,000, and we made 1,100, so it worked out okay. The goal is actually to make $100 per contract, and I made $1,100 per contract. But for the rest of the month, I want to get this. I want this number to be over 20,000 by the end of the week. So I was shooting for $1,000 a day this week, and we hit 1,100, so that's good. Anyway, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today's the 27th day of May, 2025. We made 15 ticks on the NQ. We lost 25 on the Russell. Made 85 on gold and 24 on the ES. So gold is by far our big winner this month. Gold is the equivalent of the NQ and the ES combined this month. It's strange. Gold is the big winner this month. But it's how it played out. All right. So on the month now, well, on the day, we ended up with $1,100 even. And on the month, we're at $18,282 over 16 trading days, averaging $1,142 per contract per 2-hour trading day. On the year, we're at $138,100. That is over 88 trading days, averaging $1,569 per contract per 2-hour trading day. If you were doing the 24/20 blueprint, that means you add one contract for every $2,000 that you make. So far this year, you would have, added one contract per month, and you'd be up to 5 contracts right now. You would have only had to work 11.43 hours or 11 and a half hours this year if you quit trading when you got the goal for the day. All right, today would have been, I think, 9 minutes. Yeah, 9 minutes today. We started out with 2 stop outs, but we'll get into that in a few minutes. You would be up $43,572 total if you quit trading, followed the 24/20 blueprint and quit trading when you got the goal for the day. That's an average of $3,811 per hour. Okay, so that's pretty good money, no matter how you get it. So gold is going to be the last one that we do because we had the most trades on gold. We'll start out with the Russell since we only had one trade there. It's right here. and we stopped out. Our one little trade on the Russell was a minus 25 tick stop out. And I think I messed that one up, didn't I? Yes, I did. I totally messed that one up. I shouldn't be going short there at all. I don't know how I ended up. I don't even know if that's the right spot because I shouldn't have been short there at all. This one didn't make it down into the oversold. This one didn't make it into the oversold. So why on earth would I take the next one? I don't know. But I stopped out on it. So it was minus 25 ticks. If I had taken either one of these, I would have stopped out on either one of those too. So either way, if I'd have done it in the right place, I still would have stopped out. That was the only trade on the Russell. I'm thinking of bumping the Russell back down to a 9 range because it's only given one trade a day. That's not really something you want to trade with. On the 9 range, gave a bunch of nice trades right here. Okay, it was trading pretty well on the 9 range. So maybe tomorrow I'll go to the 9 range, or even the rest of today, I'll go to the 9 range on the Russell. Okay, I'm going to change my DOM for that right now before I forget. Hang on. So the stop, on the 9 range is going to be like this. All right. If you go to trade rules for the 9 range right here, has a 15 tick stop that shows break even after 5 ticks in profit with a 30 tick target. It's going to be just like the gold. All right. So now let me flip that bracket to the right one. It's a 9 range bracket. It's a 15 by 25 bracket. Okay, 15 by 25. And that is going to be it. Okay. Just go check that one more time and make sure that everything is right. Everything looks correct there. All right. So we're changing to a 9 range on the Russell. The next most trades that we had was on the NQ. All right, we only had a couple of trades on the NQ. We had the one right at the beginning and then the one right after it. So when I took these trades, first thing, I took this trade and an ES trade right away. As soon as before the market opened, I took these 2 trades. And the NQ trade was not in the right place at all. I didn't really look at it. It was not in the right place at all. And I stopped out minus 60 ticks. The next trade that I took was in the perfect place for a trade. And I got plus 75 on that one. So that put us at plus 15 overall on the NQ. I didn't get after that. Now, that's not to say that there weren't any more trades. It's just that I didn't trade anymore. Did get into a little choppy period right here. But it looks like I didn't do anything in that choppy period. I thought I had, but I guess I didn't. Okay, when the European markets closed here, I was hoping we get a little bit of action. And we did get a nice run up right here on that, put in a new high of the day on the NQ. So the next one was the ES. Now on the ES, same thing right at the beginning. I threw a trade on there without really paying attention. This was a better looking trade, but it still wasn't great. It was right here. You see right here, this one was a spot right here that I could have traded if I'd been there just a couple minutes earlier. Failed to put in a higher swing, showed kind of weak right there. And then it pulled back 100%, and that's where I took this trade, I imagine. And it didn't put in a higher swing. It stopped me out. And my DOM was messed up on that too, and it just ended up stopping me out minus 10 ticks. Very next trade right here, I thought I had picked up like 4 points on that. Turns out I only got 2. So I picked up 2 points there. I was still at minus two ticks after all that. And then we had all this movement in here that I didn't do anything with. Then we got all the way over here. I went from minus 2 to plus 8. So I picked up 10 on that. Then I picked up 8 more on that to get us to 16. And then 8 more over here to get us to 24. Okay. And that was what I did with the ES today. Now, during the break, there were some trades in here during the break. If you look at from here to here right now, from here to here, this is what you're looking at, right? There to there. Okay, it never did do a very good pullback in that. After it did that, then you had here to here, which did 100% right there. Then you had from here all the way over to here, which give you this right in here. So that was a good spot to trade right in there. This was not a good spot to trade that, but did go down here, then up into there. And then that actually changed things. Once it did this right here, it did this little bit right here. Then you had, well, it ended up going like this, right? That's why I was saying this was a good spot to trade. but the way it came together, you weren't going to have a trade set up there until all the way over here is where you finally got the trade set up for that. All right. And it gave a little bit of profit in there, but that was it on the ES. We ended with plus 24 on the ES. And now the gold. Now the gold is where we did the majority of the trading. Okay, the question box. I haven't even looked at that yet. Okay, no questions in the question box. Let me see who is in here right now. Okay. Here we go. Let's go all the way to the beginning here. All right. Now we're pretty on top of things on gold all day. Majority of our trades were in gold, and majority of them were winning trades. We only had one break-even trade out of all those trades. Our first trade in here on gold was right here. We picked up 14 ticks on that. And the next one was right here. We picked up 1 there, then a break-even. Then we went from 15 to 20, so we picked up 5 there. Then we picked up 8 there to go to 28. Then I went from 28 to 42, so that looks like it was 14 ticks. Then went from 42 up to 43, then 43 to 45, and then 45 to 65, so we picked up 20 ticks in there. And then 65 up to 80, so we picked up 15 there. And then I think 15 there. And then here we picked up 5 more. We went from 80 to 85, and I didn't write this one in. Whatever I got on that one at the end, I didn't add in. It was at 11, 21, 22. Let's take a look and see what it says. Nope, I can't. Sorry. I could have, there you go. But anyway, we picked up something else there, and I don't know exactly what it was. But moving forward from there, there was not another trade until right here. And that would have been probably a break-even trade for me had I done it. It put in a lower swing finally right here, came out of it, and then gave you a decent trade right here. If you wanted to do that, that was off 100% retracement of this leg right here. All right, 100% retracement of that leg would have been the entry on that. Then it flipped the YBR before you had another trade. And coming off the YBR in the other direction right here. All right, you would have been drawing like this. Just so you all know, you would have been drawing from the bottom to the top like that. Right. So this right here was exactly at the 50% retracement. You could have been aggressive on that and taken a long trade from there, or conservative on that and taken a long trade from there. Either way, they would have been within a couple of ticks. The entry would have been. It moved up, gave you another trade right in here. Now on that one, you'd been drawing from here to here, so you would have been looking to get down to here. I probably wouldn't want to do that. Actually didn't get into the oversold right there. It's over here. I still don't want to do it. And that was pretty much it. Okay, so we ended up with plus 85. We actually had more than 85 on the gold. I'm not exactly sure what, but it was more than 85. Can you find that thing? Where is gold? Gold is right here. That brings that to the front. No, it doesn't. It's wrong one. Wrong one. That's the Russell. Here it is over here. Anyway. That brings us current. So if anybody's just logging in right now on YouTube, and if you haven't taken a free trial with us and you want to, go here to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button. There's no credit card required for the trial. Just click on that purple button. It's going to bring you to this registration page. Just fill out this page. Once you fill it out, you'll be sent a link to get into the room in the morning. And once you give us your TradingView login ID, you'll be notified that all your indicators are able to be indicating. So all I have to do is open up the layout that sends you an email. Okay. That's that. Now we can get back into some trading, I guess. All right, so I don't see any questions in here at this point, so I'm just gonna go through a quick analysis of the markets where they stand right now. Okay, if you look at gold right here, we'll start out with gold. The last time it came out of the oversold was right here. Made an approach to get back in it right there, but it didn't quite make it. So you're using this low right here. All right, this low, so far this high. Now this pullback right here was a good spot to go long, but it didn't make it into the oversold, so it wouldn't have been wouldn't have really been a valid trade right there. If it would have gone into the oversold, that would have been a good trade to take right there. Okay, that's the way the gold looks right now. Now you see, I think all the indexes, this one does not have the YBR turned on. There you go. All the indexes are above the YBR. Is Kyle in here? HIJK. Kyle is not in here. Okay, so that said, let's look at the Russell the same way we just looked at the gold. All right, so the last time it came out of the overbought was right here. So this is what you're looking at. I think, wait a minute. Last time it came out of the oversold, I'm sorry. It's right here. So that's what you were looking at. It went right through that low. It's kind of tough here. This isn't really a great spot right here because it got all jammed up. So maybe from back here, a little further back where it came out of the oversold back here. This is your 50% mark right here. All right, so it hit it a couple of times and it bounced off it, and now it's trying to get away from it. But it's kind of jammed up in there. Okay, and that's the Russell. And this is on a 9 range now. Okay, a 9 range. Keep that in mind. Let me save this now. And let me go save my Sierra thing too at the same time. We'll save chart book. Okay, sharp is that just regular TIQ.
You
Right,
talking
so
to
the
yourself?
I am kind of talking to myself. Yes, I am. I was working things out in my head there.
All right.
So the ES is just going sideways right here at the midpoint of this leg. Right? It's just going sideways. So now it needs to get up into the overbought and preferably make a nice run to give us a leg length we can work with. Other than that, you just got a bunch of garbage right here. It's chop that you could trade if you wanted to, but it's just not moving. And we really don't have a lot in news this week. Right? So I don't know what we're going to get as far as markets go, but we only have a few days left.
I shared a news article at the beginning of the broadcast. Wall Street is calling this NVIDIA week. Based upon how their earnings come out tomorrow, and I forget if it's before or after the bell. I think it's after. According to the pundits, there's $7 trillion parked to go into NVIDIA, or at least a lot of it, if their earnings report is good tomorrow.
Really?
And so far this earnings season, almost all of the Magnificent Seven, I think everybody, is pretty much surprised to the upside. And consumer confidence is up for the first time in, gosh, was it 4 months? I don't know. I read the article earlier.
It hadn't registered when I had looked at it earlier today, the consumer confidence stuff. 9 o'clock case show. This is all today, right? 10 o'clock.
Is it
Consumer
possible it came
confidence.
out
Here it was.
yesterday?
No, it was today. You're right. It was today. Yeah. It was 98.
Confidence.
98. They were expecting 87. They got 98. So people are finally starting to clue, and to get a clue that when the dust settles, we're going to be in a much better place.
That what the administration is doing, while short term there's a little pain, but we're on the cusp of a golden age. Anything worth having is worth working for. So.
Yep, that's what I keep telling my son.
Your son's cooking on gas, man. He's got
he
his
is.
job. He's got his side hustle, which is all official.
Yep, he is. He is.
Sadly, my son is currently between jobs. I hope he gets something better than what he had this time. So.
Good. And, with Jake, it's just about keeping him focused. And he's got the ambition, and he money is an incredible driver for him. He doesn't like to spend it at all. He likes to have it.
Right.
And he wants to retire when he's like 35 years old. So, he's got it all planned out. And
That's good.
And so he's
For someone of his age to hear that he's a net saver as opposed to a net spender, that's awesome.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Paul just
Yesterday,
posted a question for you.
Mrs.
Mike,
Maestro,
Miss,
did you?
you go ahead.
Okay, I
Did
did, Paul.
he did, Paul?
Yeah, I'll go over it right now because the markets really aren't giving us anything. But going back to the daily chart is what Paul's asking about. And I was talking about this morning how if this candle somehow by the end of the day were to close up above the MA1, close up above random falling, this is what I had drawn out here a couple weeks ago. I had drawn this. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen today, but these are all-time highs right here. If it were to make it up there, and it's going to make it up there, I
That
think
Nvidia
it
news
could.
tomorrow should skyrocket if the earnings are good.
It's possible that it could be the thing that does it tomorrow. I mean, this, the markets could actually be putting that into it right now, as a matter of fact.
But the pullback held.
Yep, it did right here at the BBC, as we had been saying. And look, I drew all this stuff in here. The little things that you see in the background there, I drew that in ahead of time. Like last week when it was over here, I drew that in. I said, what I'd really like to see is a bar that does this, and then a bar after that that does this, and then one that gives a wick that bounces off the BBC and then gives an up close. It didn't give the up close, but it gave a close off the BBC. And this one right here, if we could get up above the MA1 today and we have good news with NVIDIA tomorrow, we could be right up here tomorrow. And so all this stuff that I drew like 3 weeks ago, or this April, the middle of April. So a month and a half ago, almost, all this stuff that I drew a month and a half ago would come to fruition.
Yep.
And that's the long-term picture. That's what it is right there, Paul, for me. I said last week when it was down here, buy calls. I said buy calls the end of this week calls. I said buy Friday expiration for this week. And if you had done that when I said it last week here, those calls were worth 300-400 times what they were when I
And
said
if
it.
we push through, don't miss that big bearish cross over there.
Yeah, if you go all the way over here,
Yep.
over here, right in there. And that's right up above where I started this whole thing, is right up above the bearish cross.
Yeah, and that's right where the downtrend we had been in started.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
once we cross that point, I will shift my daily chart to reflect normal fibs as opposed to the reverse fibs that we've been using.
Yeah, so it's all coming out. It's all coming out the way that I really thought it was going to. And technically it's coming to a perfect resolution, really.
Yeah.
And
This is why we're technical traders, guys, and not
yeah,
fundamental traders.
I mean,
Some people watch the news and then go rush to the charts. Actually, you should watch your charts, and when it does what you think it's going to do, then go to the news and you can figure out what fundamental thing made the technical come to pass.
right. And I mean, we've been doing this a long time, and
Since
we're not
2005/6, in one
we're
form or another.
pretty good at what we do. All right, so let's go back down. But that's my long term, Paul. Is that what you're looking at? My long term targets, or were you talking about long term today?
Oh, and Sunday night when I couldn't get logged in to DT Pro, the gain servers, they hadn't threw the switch yet.
Yep.
I actually did the Sunday night alerts based off my trading view charts. So when the
Good,
day
because
comes that I no longer have DT Pro, I'm kind of ready to go. So
well, that's good, because I imagine that day's going to be coming
I'm sure it
pretty
will.
soon.
In fact, it's already lasted longer than Bert had thought it would.
Yeah, way longer than I thought it would too. And once I figured out the whole trading view thing, I really embraced it. And,
You're very welcome, Paul.
but if we go to just today's stuff, we're at the highs right now, I think, aren't we? We're right below the highs on ES right now. This was the high.
Yeah,
right
we're
here.
just off the high of the day.
So if I crunch this up like this, then you have to look all the way back here and look. There is no reason for it to stop right here.
At the top of
There's
that
no
red
reason for it to
candle,
stop.
you just had your. Yep, that area
This one
right
way
there.
over here.
I would expect some potential resistance in that area.
There's a gap right here that it has to fill.
Yeah.
That it hasn't filled. I don't know if that's a trading view gap or if that's a real gap.
Now let me ask you, on Sunday night on TradingView, did you show a gap?
Let's see.
Because the DT Pro
I don't
charts
think
show
so.
a huge gap, but it's not real. When the gain servers finally kicked in, it did not recoup the data that happened during that time. But
No,
I'm
no
kind of
gap here.
glad it happened Sunday night because it forced me to go and start doing on TradingView what I do on DT Pro. So, because I know I got to do it eventually. So,
Yeah, no gap. And I guess this is it was a half day on Friday, so there was no gap.
no, it was a
Was
half
it a
day on
half day?
Monday.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, half day Monday. Sorry, that's what I'm talking about. Half day Monday. So you were talking about Sunday night.
I was
I
talking
was
about
looking at
Sunday night.
last
Yeah,
night. Is this last night? Yeah, that was last night. You're talking about Sunday night. Let's go look at Sunday night. Looks like there's a gap right there, but that's not the one you're talking about. Be right here. There was a little bit of a gap right here.
a little bit, but on
It
my
got filled right away
DT
though.
Pro charts, it shows a massive gap, which I figured out
That
pretty
got
quickly on TradingView. It didn't really happen. It was just a big,
this got
huge
filled in
green
like
candle. Yeah.
30 seconds. Filled. But yeah, well, gaps with range bars. You really on TradingView, you got to go to like the minute bars or something like that to make sure
Yeah,
there's no gap.
yeah. I was working on 30 minutes on TradingView.
Because sometimes the range bars will show a gap that isn't actually there
Yeah, Paul
because
says he
they're
noticed the same thing on DT Pro that I did.
okay. But what I'm seeing right here, if I crunch it all the way up like this is like going to a larger time frame in the range bar. You know,
Hmm.
and what I see right here is this gap right there. And what's the high of that right now? 21,483.
Yep.
And what's the high of the day? 66. So there's a gap there that's got to get filled. It hasn't been filled, and that's unusual that we have a gap that hasn't been filled in a week.
We have a weekly zone this week at 21,479 on the NQ.
Well, that's about perfect right there. 479, 483. That's right at 483 right there. That's perfect. And I would expect, when you look at this kind of movement right here, what happened there to make that drop like that and cause that big gap? That was it was in the middle of the day on the 21st. So let me go here and see what happened on the 21st because
I
this does
bet it
actually
was
let
a
you go
Trump
back.
Truth Social post. That's my guess.
That is very possible. 21st, I'm just looking to see what news we had on the 21st. Nothing. Really, we didn't have any high impact news at all on the 21st. It had to be something Trump said or did.
Hmm. I think so. That man can
And
move the markets, no doubt.
he can. There are people that are making billions of dollars
Yep.
because of the stuff that he's doing. And
Guys, if you don't use Truth Social, it's free. I encourage you to. And make sure you follow President Trump because you're going to pop up on your phone that he just said something. And depending upon what he says. And
yeah,
I watched his. He was at the. What's the Army Military Academy? What's it called?
the Army at West Point.
Yeah, the speech he delivered at West Point was just so spot on. And then the Memorial Day speech that he gave at Arlington National Cemetery was just picture perfect. He is so in touch with the middle class American. Uh, it feels like the golden age already, and it's just getting started. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. You got to embrace all possibilities.
Yes, yes, you do. Yes,
And
you
I
do.
think Putin's lost his mind. He keeps saying he wants to, like, wind this down, but his actions do not match up with his words. So
Well, yeah. Got to wonder about his cognitive health too.
yeah, that crossed my mind this morning. And all this stuff that's coming out about the previous administration and who was really in charge and who had the auto pen, and man, it's scary. And
It
and
is.
and here's what kills me. This guy Jake Tapper. from CNN or wherever he's from. They showed all these video clips of him saying, the president's in the finest shape in the world, just met with him, he can run circles around me. I mean, this was not just one time. He said this like hundreds of times. Now he's got a book out about what a derelict the previous administration, President Biden, was, and what poor shape he was in. And like, we figured this out, you know, over 4 years ago, and now he's making money off both sides. That just don't
Yeah, well,
seem right.
he probably had a book written each way, and depending on how the election went, he would publish it.
Yeah,
You want to bet? Because he probably didn't write it himself.
you're right, Bob. It is amazing how detached the other aisle seems to be.
There's a long here on the gold.
Finally got it
Coming off 100% retracement. Yeah, I'm gonna bump to break even. I'm just gonna get out of break even, I guess. We were coming off 100% retracement right there. That's why I went long. It was this right here, right? So you would have drawn like this from here to here. It was just about 100% retracement right there. So I went long. I got in on the pullback right there because I wanted my stop to be down below here. And it gave me 5 ticks in profit, and then I bumped my stop, and it took me out of break even. Okay, like over here right now on the NQ, this could be an aggressive long trade. It could have been an aggressive long trade, so it could be aggressive now. And it's not going to be a good trade to be conservative. But look the way it came together, like this. Okay, so being aggressive at the open of that bar right there, where it went into the oversold, would have been the place to be. I mean, I wasn't really looking at it, but that's the place to be. Now, it's not good for a conservative trade where it comes out of the oversold, because that's going to put you right here with an entry. Your prior swing high right there, your first area of resistance right there, and that is going to put your stop right here before the 100% retracement. So you really don't want to be in that position. You don't want to have your orders in those spots. Okay. Wow, we ran over, Dwayne.
Okay.
All right. So I will show you guys this. If you haven't taken a free trial with us, go here to mytradingiq.com and click on the purple button. There's no credit card required for the trial. Click on that, and it's going to bring you to this registration page. Just fill out the form. Once you fill it out, you'll be sent a link to get into the morning session, and you get your indicators indicating. All right. If you don't have a TradingView ID, click on this link and get one. All right. That is it, guys. With that,
And because it's a short week, you're not going to get cheated out of anything. You still get your 5 days, no credit card required. We treat you just like a passport holder.
All right. So, yeah, with that, I can pass it back up to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. If you are ready.
Yep, I'm ready.
All right.
Okay, recap of the morning session.
Today it took 9 minutes and 5 trades to get to $1,900 with 10 contracts.
Great job.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, we have covered all the markets. We've covered how to become a member. Just send an email to support@cfrn.net. Tell us you want to become a member. We'll send you an email that explains everything it means to be a passport holder. And there'll be a link that you can click to seal the deal. Make it official. Okay? And if you missed all my explanation, this broadcast will post to YouTube about an hour after I sign off, maybe a half hour. They seem to have gotten quicker of late. So we're going to wrap it up with our good word for the day. You're almost there. Philippians 3:14. I press on towards the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. Psychologists say the strongest influence on our present is often our past. But Paul said, one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead. I press on towards the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. One counselor writes, I know you're tired, overwhelmed, as though this hard time will last forever. but it won't. You are almost there. You don't just think it has been hard, it has been hard. You've been tested and retested on what you have learned. Your faith tried in fire. More problems occurred than you anticipated. You did not plan on this, yet it has been good. Part of you, your spirit, has sensed this, even when your head told you that things were out of whack, that there was no plan, that God had forgotten you. Each incident, the most painful, troubling, most surprising, has a connection. Romans 8:28, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. The counselor continues, things were meant to happen this way. You didn't believe it would take this long, but it did. You've learned patience. Many moments you thought you were forgotten. Now things are coming into place. You are almost at the end of this difficult portion of the journey. You've been climbing a mountain. It's not been easy, but mountain climbing is never easy. Now you are near the top. A moment longer and victory shall be yours. Steady your shoulders, breathe deeply, move forward in confidence. The time is coming to enjoy all which you have fought for. Your struggle has not been in vain. For every struggle on this journey, there is a climax, a resolution. There will be more mountains, but now you know how to climb them. And I think we may have talked about this briefly last week. Life is a series of hills and valleys, mountaintop experiences and valley experiences. And it's in that valley where you need to remember, oh, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for God is with me. He's with you on the mountaintop. He's with you in the valley. When you're on the mountaintop, enjoy it. Just know that there's another valley coming. And when you're in the valley, suck it up, because pretty soon you'll be on another mountaintop. If you've ever sat by someone in the hospital who is sick, they got that little machine hooked up to them. Beep, beep, beep. You know, it goes up and it goes down, and it goes up and it goes down. The last thing in the world you want is for that machine to flatline. Beep. Because that means it's over. Yet so many of us spend our time and treasure in life trying to straighten it out. That's not how God intended it. Go with the flow. Wherever you are right now, that's where God wants you to be right now. And if it's hard, and if it's tough, and if it's difficult, just ask God. God, I know you're teaching me a lesson here. Please help me learn the lesson, because I don't want to have to go through this particular experience again. And God's faithful. He will get you to that next mountaintop. You just gotta believe. And that is our good word for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with his mercy and with his grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, There is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.